What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the big news which dropped yesterday. We finally have a release date for Undisputed. As well as that, I'm going to be talking about the latest development roundtable and some of the changes that they've kind of made to the game. As always, if you do enjoy today's video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, leave a comment with your thoughts and opinions around the current state of Undisputed in the comment section down below. Let's get things off with the release date. So there's going to be two editions of the game. There's going to be a standard and a deluxe WBC edition. The standard edition of the game you can get on the 11th of October. It's going to cost you $49.99. The deluxe WBC edition, however, is going to come out on the 8th of October, so 3 days early. It's going to cost you an extra £15, so it's going to be $64.99. The deluxe WBC edition is going to be coming with some DLC fighters, which is going to include Jaime Munguia, Regis Prograis, Bam Rodriguez, Dimitri Bivol, Caleb Plant, and Julio Cesar Chavez. It's also going to come with the Era Pack, which is going to be giving you, I'm not too sure what this is right now. Is it cosmetic or is it almost like Ultra Ego, what they're doing with EA Sports UFC, where you're getting throwback versions of the fighters with proper stats and also cosmetic look. But the Era Pack is going to include Tyson Fury 09, Canelo 2011, Muhammad Ali 64, and Roy Jones 1993. The Roy Jones is also coming with the standard edition of the game. So that's basically everything around the release. Right now, I'm kind of confused with what Undisputed and Steel City Interactive are actually doing. They're marketing the game and they're marketing, pre-order the game now, but they're only kind of marketing the standard edition. Everything about the release date is, the 11th. We're not saying in the sort of trailers that they got you can get the game 3 days early with this WBC edition of the game. So I'm not too sure what's going on, but it is there. It's there to see on the store pages. So be sure to kind of think about what you're going to do in terms of when you're pre-ordering the game, if you're going to do that. Um, I'm sure if you get the standard edition, there's surely going to be a way to get the DLC down the line if you decide you actually want it. As well as that, I know this game is going to be coming with a lot of DLC. I think there's going to be, I guess, some fighters in their contract when they sign with the game. It's actually said that they're going to get a percentage of how much is actually paid for them. So people are going to be able to buy them, and then they're going to get a certain percentage for it. So it's going to be kind of different to combat sports games that we've seen in the past. It's going to be kind of more of a throwback to Fight Night Champion, where you was able to buy the fighter bundles. But yeah, so that's the release of the game. I guess it's going to be coming out very soon, October the 8th to October the 11th. Um, I'm not too sure what to think about it. I think the price of the game is it's on the cheaper side for modern day games in terms of AAA level anyway. If you're buying a Call of Duty or Madden or FIFA or whatever it is, it's probably going to set you back around £60 for the standard edition. So in this case, it is kind of cheaper. But on the other hand, I think those games, besides them being all shit, is they have more content. Right now, Undisputed has, I think, around 3 offline game modes, the Expedition Fight, Career Mode, and there's some sort of leaderboard game mode, which I just never really understood. You get points rewarded to you on how you complete the free fights there, but you don't actually get rewarded for it. So it's always been kind of confusing to me. There's also online game modes. You have the online ranked and online casual. So in total, basically around 5 game modes. Yes, you have the fighter, custom creator, whatever. But to me, for the price of the game, I think there should be more. Despite the fact that I'm not too sure. I think the price is okay overall, but it could be cheaper. But needs more, in my opinion, anyway. In terms of the latest roundtable, however, they discuss some of the things which are going to be coming to the game and what they're also taking away for the game for the full release. And to me, this was kind of game breaking in some ways because some of the things that, well, one of the things they're taking away just doesn't make sense to me. I think the state it was in the offline beta was fine and they could have kept it and improved on it later, but to take it away is crazy. But we're going to get into that now. So we're getting new in-game cutscenes and celebrations, including the title bouts, which is kind of cool. Something definitely the base game was missing. In terms of the career mode, it definitely lacks that sort of how would you say it, putting you in there immersion. I guess you could say, yeah, it lacks that for sure. Not having the cutscenes necessarily ready. You know, you'd celebrate the fight the same way you'd win your first amateur fight, the same way you would win if you won a world title. It just didn't make sense. So hopefully now that's going to add a little bit more immersion. But it's not something I was like crazy. I think that all could be fixed at a later line, and gameplay could be more of a priority for now. In terms of the gameplay, there's been a lot of changes to the punch animations, and for me right now, I think they look great. Maybe a little bit over the top in some points, but I think it's something the game was missing. I think in terms of realism and making a game, they don't necessarily go hand in hand. And I think you can look at like football games for that. For example, I know EA Sports, what's it now? EA Sports FC. They just have too many animations that actually makes the game worse. It makes it too slow. So I think having animations which are a little bit more flashy and a little bit more quicker in general is going to make the game a little bit better, even if it does take away slightly from the realism. I think, you know, at some points you have to sacrifice realism for a good game, and I'm pretty impressed with the new punch animations. I think they look good, and going along with that, we got the new sort of punch targeting and punch impact system. In terms of the impact system, going along with these new punch animations, it looks great. It looks like hard shots are landing, which, you know, during playing the early access for Undisputed, it was something I was definitely missing. You'd throw shots, you'd throw big shots, and even when they landed, you wouldn't necessarily get that feel of a big shot landing. They've changed some of the punch impact animations for new knockdowns and new stuns and wobbles, which is great. We needed more of that. I'm hoping that they're gonna eventually add a new get up, because the way you get up in this game all the time is just so repetitive. I don't necessarily hate the system with the two triggers which you go up and down trying to get them both at the same time. I think that's fine, but the way your fighter gets up from going down a certain way is just crazy sometimes. So it's good to see those changes. They've also improved the head movement. It's gonna be hard to tell just from the videos that we got for this how it's actually gonna work. It just looks a little bit smoother, and I think in the gameplay there's using Terrence Bud Crawford against Amir Khan, and you can see kind of like the smoothness within the way he's able to the weave and, you know, use that left stick input. So in terms of Undisputed, you've got the trunk movement by holding LT. You can move your fighter around from the trunk, or you can also do kind of like weaves and slips with by pushing in the left stick. So they were talking about that with the head movement, and I think it looks okay. It looks a lot smoother, a little bit quicker than it was before. So I think that's an improvement. I think in terms of a game, you need game speed. I think sometimes too slow makes the game boring and just not great. So I think that's good. However, in terms of the head movement, we are not able still to move our head and punch at the same time. It's just something I think we need to be able to move your head off center line, whether it's slipping a punch and throwing at the same time. I just don't understand why we haven't got that yet. I think it's something that definitely needs to be added to the game. But one of the biggest takeaways was the stamina and punch speed changes. In terms of the stamina, we're not too sure, but the punch speed changes look great. Before this sort of system was introduced to stop people from spamming the same sort of punches, so people were basically lead hook spamming, because the way the game worked was you could damage one side of the face to a point where you get knocked down. So people just spam lead hook, and the punch would come out so quick all the time, it would just be super overpowered. They then changed the game to make punches come out slower after a certain amount. So after the third and fourth hook, you know, the speed of the punches just super slow, and it looked really unrealistic and it didn't look good, but also kind of did a job in stopping spammers. So that was good. But now they got a system in which the punch speed doesn't really change all too much. The only thing that changes is how quick you are to kind of, I guess, reload the punch, you know, bring it back. So now, once you throw the hook, is how slow the punch is going to come back afterwards. So I think that's actually really good change. I think it's something that is definitely needed and is an improvement on what they already had in the game. So I'm super excited for that. Some of the things they've taken away, though, are kind of crazy. We'll start off with the clinch, because I think that's fine. I think taking away the clinch in its current state is actually probably a big positive. In terms of the clinch in the current state of the early access of Undisputed, it's just very stale. It basically stops the fight altogether, and both fighters are just glued to each other. They don't move or anything. You just see stamina dropping on both of them, which is kind of crazy. And the way it worked, it just wasn't necessary for the game. It took away from the game, if anything. Before Undisputed actually came out back in the day, they were talking about a clinch system in which you were able to continue fighting in the clinch, work away on the inside, work your way out of the clinch as well. So as well as throwing punches on the inside, potentially, leaning your opponent up against the ropes in the clinch, stuff like that, which would be a useful clinch. If you had a dynamic clinch in the game, I think it would be good. But the current state of the clinch is not very good, so it's kind of good news that they've taken it out and they're going to look to rework it. I'm hoping that they can do a much better job this time with it. And when it does come back, hopefully it's something which is good added to the game. The most crazy thing for me is they've taken out vulnerability. Um, I think vulnerability in the current state of Undisputed in the early access isn't that bad. It's not great. It doesn't necessarily do the purpose. Like, for example, I think when you're moving into a punch, you should be punished more, and that currently just isn't the case. But the fact they've taken it out altogether for day one launch is kind of crazy to me. Um, not punishing fighters for making mistakes, like if you duck into an uppercut like Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo, you should be punished for that. And the fact that it's gonna just basically be the same as if I hit an uppercut when you're standing up straight or when you're ducking into it, it doesn't really matter. It takes away from not only some of the simulation and sort of realism of the game, but it also takes away from the skill gap, in my opinion. That's something which is definitely needed in this game. I think if this game's going to succeed, it needs to be rewarding for players who are interested in the game. It's got to be easy for people to pick up enough to get going, but then have a real good skill gap. And I think taking away vulnerability is a huge thing and something I'm really disappointed about. And overall, I would say it feels rushed. I think going off what Steel City Interactive has said in the past, they've gone, look, we're not releasing the full game until it's ready. So you can keep asking, when's it coming to console? When's it coming to console? It doesn't matter. We're going to wait until the game's ready. This feels like the absolute opposite of that. I feel like taking away vulnerability from the game, even in its current state, it wasn't great, but at least added something to the game. And now not having it at all is kind of wild to me. I didn't think the game was ready for early access before the changes which are coming. I still don't think it's ready to come out of early access now, and kind of disappointed in that. I really want this game to do well because the current state of gaming in terms of sports games is 2K and EA Sports. You kind of have a monopoly on it, and especially in EA's case, I don't trust them to make a sports game ever. I think back in the day they made some really good games, but now it's all become about money. I think you look at the state of FIFA or EAFC, what's it's called now, is an absolute state. Madden the same. And on 2K's side, they've absolutely ruined NBA 2K. So, I need this game to do well. I want this game to do well. I think it's important to have another developer in the scene as well. And, with this being their first game, I'm definitely going to give them leeway. But at the end of the day, I'm worried about this game when it comes out. I think it's going to do really well. I think releasing the news about the release date now is really smart, with the Fury Usyk fight coming up. The marketing you can get behind that is crazy. But, when this game comes out, I'm sure it's going to do well. Lots of people are going to play it. But how long is it going to take until it dies? That's what I'm really wondering right now. So we're going to have to wait and see. Hopefully, they can work on these things like the clinch and vulnerability, add them to the game, and it'd be brilliant. But we're going to have to wait and see. But that's all from me today, guys. Hopefully, this is going to work out. Let me know how you feel in the comment section down below. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Peace out.